Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. We are back again with yet another channel update because we have reached 13,000 subscribers. First and foremost, to everybody who is new to the channel, welcome. Hope you've liked it here thus far. Hope you're enjoying the content that you're seeing. Those of you who have been here for a while already know that at every 1,000 subscribers, I do a video like this where you're really seeing my face and it's just a direct conversation between us, no script involved. Usually, I use this opportunity to talk about what's going on the channel and provide some outlook on where the channel's going, but I think I'm going to switch that up and instead, I'll use these videos to take a particular subject in gaming and just give you some general thoughts on it. Still, for the most part, unscripted, although you might see some cuts in this video because this is kind of a lot of content to go through. For whatever reason, I decided the first topic I wanted to cover was romances. Many of you already know I love a good romance in my games, and so I thought it might be interesting to give you my thoughts on what are some of the best romances in RPGs today. And I would love to hear your thoughts on what are your favorite romances that you've experienced up to this point. Maybe you've experienced some that I haven't yet, and this list would change if I had had that opportunity. So, with that, let's get into it. I tried really, really hard to whittle this down to five, but I couldn't. So, these are going to be my top seven romances that I've experienced thus far. Number seven on the list is Alistair from Dragon Age Origins. And yes, it's true. This list will not just be women because even though I'm married and I'm a heterosexual man, I'm the type of guy who, if I buy a game, I want to experience all of the content in it. So I usually play it as both a male and a female, and I try to experience every romance that the developers have made available because I want to get that full experience. I want to get my money's worth. These games are kind of expensive, to be honest with you. And in my personal opinion, Alistair is the best romance in gaming that is meant just for women. I do feel like it's a problem in games where the developers put less time and energy and effort into a romance if it's just meant for women. We don't need to rehash all the terrible romances, Jacob from Mass Effect 2 and the like, that women have had to experience. But I feel like Alistair is just the exact opposite. He's sweet, he's funny, he's got a great storyline. There's a lot of mystery to him. But unlike some of the other women centric romances, his mysteries aren't like this negative, terrible, horrible, awful thing that, might make you wish you had never romanced him in the first place. He's just got his own personal story and his own personal situations going on that he doesn't want to talk about yet. And so all of this comes together to make it a romance that is very endearing, that adds a lot to the story. I just really, really enjoyed going through that whole experience. And honestly, I feel like playing as a female human noble and going through a romance and with Alistair is one of the most satisfying runs you can have in Dragon Age Origins. So absolutely great stuff. Felt like he was a character that was really done well. Next up on the list is yet another man, Thane from Mass Effect 2. So admittedly, I think if you took all of Thane's romantic content and you matched it up against what Alistair provides, I think pound for pound, Alistair's romance is better. Even though Thane has a very cool voice, his character model is super cool, very alien, but in a unique way that is distinctive from all the other aliens you're going to meet in Mass Effect 2. He's got a fantastic personal story quest that feels very personal and makes you more emotionally attached to him while you're still doing things for him. He's great to take in combat, so it's really cool to watch all of his different moves, and there are a lot of situations where having him on the team is very useful. But overall, I would say the full summation of his content isn't quite as good as what you get from Alistair. However, the ending of his romance that you get in Mass Effect 3 is an emotional high that I don't think a romance with Alistair ever actually reaches. Like, if you look that up, you'll see a bunch of both men and women on forums, on videos talking about it almost brought them to tears. Like, it was just a really, truly powerful well done moment that is honestly great, whether you have romanced him or not. But it's even better if you actually have romanced him. And because it hits a height that Alistair never quite reaches, I think I put Thane's romance a little bit higher. Next on the list, Ashley Williams from Mass Effect 1. So I am a huge, huge fan of Mass Effect. I think that's the series I've played more than any other series in gaming. And as many of you already know, I like a lot of times playing the evil guy, doing the vicious things that I would never do in real life. And I feel like a evil or renegade Mass Effect run is perfectly complemented by an Ashley Williams romance. She starts out in the first game xenophobic, which is obviously something you would not want to have, or not someone you want to have in a relationship with, or have on your team if you're going for a more Paragon run. But if you're already playing as someone who is basically humanity first and against aliens, having her along, even though she kind of changes later on, it just fits right in. She's got a really fun personality, but she also makes it clear that she's very strong and independent in her own way. So she's got a real, true, distinctive character. She's great to bring in combat. Great. She's really great with guns. So she's a perfect complement to a Shepard who focuses more on support abilities, such as an engineer or an adept, which is oftentimes the kind of character I like to play in those games. She has great dialogue with some of the other party members that you get in the game, especially some of whom bring up her xenophobia and challenge her on it. And then those relationships grow and develop as you get into further along to Mass Effect 3. Also, I, for me personally, you don't get that now because you can play the whole series straight. But as someone who started with the series on Mass Effect 1, by the time I got to Mass Effect 3, it felt like I had a 5 year arc with this character. It felt like something that had a long time to grow and mature. And I don't think you really get that same feeling if you just play it all the way through again. But for me, her final conversation in Mass Effect 3 is the only time in any medium that a romance made me cry. Like, I'm gonna just be straight up with it. Like that final conversation where there's that callback to the first game just absolutely shattered me. Just absolutely brought into clear perspective for me that these are characters that I really, really cared about, that I really cared about what happened to them. I wasn't completely sure whether or not we were going to all survive the ending of Mass Effect 3. BioWare did a great job of making things seem really, really dire in that game. And of course, party member deaths were possible in Mass Effect 2. So when that final conversation happened, it just really, really set me on edge about everything we were going to go up against. And then, of course, that Garrus conversation only made that worse. And so for me, again, I feel like the content of Ashley Williams' romance is probably weaker overall than some of the other characters on this list. But I have a strong emotional tie to her. One, because I love that Mass Effect series. I spent so much time with her because there's that 5 year arc of the series. And then that final emotional high, I think that emotional high ranks against the endings of any other romance that you could see in gaming. Next on the list, Yennefer from Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. First and foremost, her character model is fantastic. I think Yennefer is, in my opinion, probably the most stunning looking woman on this romance list. From the very first time I saw her, I actually went into the game thinking that I was going to romance Trish because I had played Witcher 1 and 2. But as soon as I saw that trailer with her, I was like, nope, whoever that lady is, I'm definitely going to be focusing on her. And I was not disappointed. Voice actress did a fantastic job with her, representing a woman who comes off very strong, very independent, very competent, very capable, and most importantly for me, older. I think so many games focus on youth, on young people, on folks who kind of feel like they're just now coming into their own. And they did a great job of portraying Yennefer as someone who's been around the block, who's very, very well established, and and is not someone you can't pull the wool over her eyes. She's not someone you're going to be able to dupe. And in fact, if you try to do that in the game, it ends up pretty horribly for you. And I just love that about her character. I kind of like the fact that she's mean to just about everybody except for Geralt if you decide to get into a romantic relationship with her. It's kind of fun where she's got these really vicious barbs towards other people, but she can be very soft and warm and open with me. I don't feel like you really get that from any of the other relationships on this list. And so it's a really, really cool, unique dynamic for her character. And then I think the thing I also like the most about her character, and I played Witcher 3 Wild Hunt before I was a parent. So it's not, I'm not just speaking from that now. I just like this in general. Yennefer and Geralt together with Ciri and their search for Ciri and their desire to protect her, it feels like you're playing as someone who is a parent in a relationship with someone who is trying to be a parent with you. And I think that's extremely rare in gaming. I don't think any of these other games really make you feel like you're that far along in your relationship where you're not only figuring yourselves out and trying to develop a relationship with each other, you're also figuring out how do we raise this child? How do we do right by her as her guardians and her parents and the people who should be looking after her? I felt like that was a super cool dynamic that again made their relationship and their interactions feel much older and much more advanced than a lot of the other interactions that you get in gaming and romance. So really, really love that about Witcher 3. Next on the list, Bastila Shan, Knights of the Old Republic. Obviously, fantastic voice work by Jennifer Hale, representing someone who is very confident in her skills as a Jedi, someone who's very independent, but at the same time, I feel like Bastila was also very, very strongly feminine. I think that Yennefer can come off as super masculine sometimes and kind of look force her way in and say, I'm really the one running things and wearing the pants here. Where I never felt that way with Bastila once you finally became a Jedi. Of course, before you became a Jedi, she kind of looks down upon you and makes it clear she's not even confident in your capabilities. But once it becomes clear that you are aligned with the Force and that they're going to make you a Jedi and that they feel like you're really the only one who can stand against the issues that they're experiencing, I feel like Bastila does a great job of presenting herself as someone who's really your partner, who's really just standing by your side and wants to help you and support you in any way she can. Fantastic dialogue all the way around in that game. And of course, there's no exception to her dialogue with other party members. So pretty much no matter who you pair with, she'll have funny quips and interesting things to say that I really, really enjoyed hearing. And just in general, as someone who's a big, big fan of Star Wars, being able to not only become a Jedi, but romance a Jedi and someone who's very competent in the Force just felt super, super cool. And it was just an absolute awesome experience. So, really enjoyed that about the character. Something else that I really, really liked about her that I feel like distinguishes her from a lot of other people on this list, she was down for me whether I was playing as a good aligned character or evil aligned character. And Knights of the Old Republic was my first time experiencing that in romance. And I felt like that was so cool and endeared me much more to her character. And it made it seem like basically you love me. No matter what way I decide to be, no matter what kind of person I want to be, you love me and you're going to be there for me. And I just love that about the arc. So great ending for her. If you're a good aligned Jedi and you decide to bring her along that path, still a fantastic ending. If you're an evil aligned Jedi and decide that you want to be a part of corrupting her and you want to rule the Sith overall, either way, Bastila Shan, great romance to have. Next on the list, Jaheira from Baldur's Gate 2. I really, really love this romance because I feel like out of all the options on this list, the amount of role playing you can do in your own head about why your character likes Jaheira so much is expanded because in the first Baldur's Gate, she's married. So you start out with her not being in a relationship at all, no flirting at all. Basically, you're forced to just be her friend, and then that situation obviously changes in the second game. So, why is it that you're romantically attached to her? Were you always interested in her? Or is this actually part of the kinship you feel with her husband and you want to make sure she's taken care of? Is it because she had that close relationship with your father and maybe you feel like your father would want you to make sure she's taken care of? Do you just love her for who she is? I feel like you can role play this in a ton of different ways, and it makes this romance very, very interesting to me. Outside of that, it's really, really a fascinating journey to help her process her grief regarding her husband's murder. And the conversations that come out of that, especially since you knew her husband and you journeyed with her husband, I feel like, again, that there's very few romances that give you a similar journey, and it makes it feel older. It makes it feel like, you're not dealing with kids, you're dealing with people who have been around the block, really, really been through some horrible things. And together they're trying to figure out how to navigate that, both physically because they're in danger and emotionally. How do you keep your sanity intact? I felt like all of that was just provides great conversations and great role playing opportunities. On top of that, she's fantastic in combat, great tank. Druid is really, really awesome. Her background, as well, as far as her being a Harper and her own lore within the storylines, makes for great banter with some of the other party members. And she gets some really cool personal quests as well. So, all of that together just makes this a fantastic romance that I really enjoy. Now, all of that being said, you might wonder, am I excited then about her being in Baldur's Gate 3? Not at all. Not at all. I actually hate that decision because, in my mind, it almost certainly means they're going to retcon her being a romance. Because if the Lord of Murder, if his girlfriend, like, I'm sorry, let me back up. To be clear, I haven't played through Throne of Ball. So I know there are probably some endings where your personal character dies, but I'm assuming there are endings where your character has romance Jaheira and your character can then go on and live. All right. So I could be wrong about that. Maybe it's canon that if you romanced her, your character's automatically dead and there's no way you could help her. But if that's not the case, the idea that I ended the game still being in love with her, still being closely tied with her, and yet she's decided to return to Baldur's Gate in a period of so much turmoil, and I'm not there to help her through it. To me, it feels like a retcon. So that could be totally off base. I do plan to play through Throne of Ball before I play through Baldur's Gate 3. And so maybe that'll clear some of that up, or you all are welcome to clear this up for me in the comments. But I'm honestly not excited about seeing it in the third game, but we'll see how it goes. Finally, number one on this list, Narissa from Kingmaker. I absolutely love this romance, and I think it's the only romance on this list that makes your playthrough significantly better, significantly more rewarding. So most of these romances is nice, it's cool, it adds flavor, but it doesn't make this just huge stamp on everything that you do. So, for those of you who haven't played Kingmaker, Narissa is pretty much the main villain that you interact with for the vast majority of the game. But she's been cursed by this higher level villain called the Lantern King. And the only way to be able to romance her is that not only do you have to convince her that you love her, despite all of the evil, terrible things that she's done, but you also have to convince her that you're actually capable of removing her curse. And you encounter multiple, I think 10 different curses throughout the game. And so as you progress through the game, you have to research and understand all of those different curses, how all of them work. And then you basically have to be able to communicate that information to her to give her confidence in your own skills. You also cannot romance any other characters party members or NPCs, and there's a bunch of other things that you have to do as well. So it's by far the most difficult romance I've ever experienced in gaming for you to get. However, a secret ending of the game is unlocked by you completing this romance. The only way to truly, permanently defeat the Lantern King is by completing this process. And so it makes your playthrough so much more rewarding because it forces you to delve much more into the lore and to really understand everything that's going on in the game in a way that you do not have to if you decide not to romance her. And then two, it gives you one of the most satisfying endings I've ever experienced in a game. The ending, it Kingmaker is worth going through and experiencing like regardless, but that ending is several levels above what you would get otherwise. And being able to romance her in and of itself, when you realize that you've done that successfully, is supremely satisfying as well. So just all the way around, her romance makes the experience of playing Kingmaker significantly better. And because of that, I just really enjoy it. And I put it over and above any other romance that I've experienced. And that's my personal list. Those are the romances that I've experienced thus far that are most memorable to me and that I rank as the highest. Again, I would love to hear the romances that really impacted you all in the comments down below. Hope all of you enjoyed this video. Take care.